first of all, I gotta say this is a huge whiskey, and I really appreciate it. I thought batch one was my favorite, and batch
Do you
four,
like it?
giving it a run for
Oh, good. I'm glad you like it. I'm
I
glad.
absolutely love it. Yeah. I
I,
think that the extra time in the used oak really rounds it out, kind of polishes off those peaks that
right.
batch one had.
Yeah, that's
How,
right.
how did you what was the idea behind it? What was what was batches four coming to being?
Well, it's yeah, like the beginning of the distillery. It started with wanting to make a good whiskey, one that I would like. I tasted a number of whiskeys back when I came here to the US 20 years ago.
Mm,
Yeah, I know. I'm old. I'm getting old. And I obviously I tasted the bourbons and the ryes that we drink here and I love. But then one time I tasted something different. I was at a friend's house in Boulder, Colorado. I tasted Stranahan's and it
oh,
blew my
great.
mind. I thought, wow, this is really, really different and amazing.
Mhm.
And and then I discovered St. George's and Westland and these ones. And I wanted to make something like that, but better. And so um, it started with the grain bill. Do you want me again? So Blake, I give
Yeah,
you
that was actually my next question was,
oh,
is this the same grain bill as everything else that
yeah,
was in the Evergreen? Okay.
it
So
is.
same
It
grain
is.
bill as batch one, two, and three.
Yeah, and it might be the same grain bill going forward. I mean, I'm not sure, but this is a grain bill that came, to arrive at this. It was one of those things where I was again. So I tasted some new American single malts that were coming out, I guess 10, 12 years ago, and I thought, wow, this is interesting. What are these guys doing? And started reading, and they were using mainly pale malt, but also specialty malts, slightly different. So some of them are the same. Stranahan uses Munich.
Okay.
Chocolate malt is not commonly used. Westland uses in some of theirs, I'm pretty sure, and there are also some in Scotland. The Macallan is one that I know of, and the Signet was another one. And I really really like these whiskeys. So the chocolate malt was came from those ones. The pale malt was the base sugar and the base taste, but then Crystal and Munich were nice ones as well. I just made some. I honestly just made some barley teas, just soaked crushed malt in hot water and smelled it and tasted it. And some of the things I liked, and some of them I didn't. So that's how the grain bill started. And yeah, just through the jigs and reels, I got to meet the people that owned or that ran Westland, Matt Hoffman,
They're great. Yeah.
and those guys agreed to make my whiskey, this grain bill. I thought, wow, this is great. How lucky am I?
Yeah,
And, uh,
that's
and
awesome.
they made it the way that we worked together on how to make the cuts and so on. And then putting it in new oak it had to be done. Scotch is
Yeah.
typically not aged in new oak, as I would imagine most people might know.
Yeah,
But
I really love that you guys are doing that. You kind of bringing the American twist to single malt, which it's
yeah,
really
so
cool. It's what really differentiates American single malt from the Scotch single malt or Irish single malt
exactly.
that people know of. It kind of gives it that Kentucky hug, that bourbon bite that you
Yeah,
kind of look for in an American whiskey.
that's right. I love those whiskeys, and I think we make some amazing whiskeys here in the U.S. But so some people might think, well, why did you stop at 3 years? Why didn't you just keep it in new oak for the entire time, which is what most American whiskeys are made.
Hmm.
But you started to get too much influence of those new oak casks, and we had to. I just didn't want to overpower the other flavors that. The way I think about this is the way I think about cooking or whatever. We're layering flavors, and so as the new oak flavors started to overpower those malt origin flavors, then we put it in these neutral casks, which is where typically a Scotch or an Irish is aged. And there's less taste coming from this wood, but there's a lot of really nice things that happen in these casks. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into my next question. Hood River's got some pretty drastic climates. It's almost desert-like weather. As far as day and night goes, you got some drastic heat and then some drastic
Yeah, but
chilling going on. And when I was at the farm, I really loved the seeing the difference in climates between the lower and upper levels. What what stage did this start out in that barn, and when did it move from the lower to upper, or vice versa?
yes, so it spent the time in the new oak cask was all downstairs in the. Did we explain the barn? So should I explain the barn to you, the whole barn structure?
He
I
did a
don't.
little bit in the video that Sasha showed. Yeah.
Oh God, I wasn't watching those videos. I was. That's.
No, you did a
I,
really good
I
job in the
apologize,
video.
Blake. For those videos. I again, I wasn't aware they were going to be used. Anyways, I didn't quite look at it, but so yeah, we have three layers here, as you saw. The
Mhm.
lower level is more or less, it's not quite a cellar, but half underground, so it doesn't. And then as you go up, you get more of the swings. But one thing, I mean, so for people who are not familiar with Hood River is this amazing place. Not only is it, it's got these amazing, this river, this big volume river that runs through this gorge, and then these volcanoes. You can see two of them, Mount Adams and Mount Hood. They're right here, and then we're in the foothills of that, you know. So you have these amazing changes, and basically where we are in Hood River in this area, we get some hot, but it's very lush here. I mean, there's a ton of forest and green, but we do get some hot. I mean, it goes into the 90s in the summer in the daytime, not many hundreds, and then we get colds. We're about to, you know, like today it was, you know, low 50s, but we'll get snow here. So it's not quite. I mean, it definitely is. It's hot sometimes, but if you go literally 10 miles or 20 miles east, then you're into proper arid desert. I mean, Mosier, you know, you have rattlesnakes and dry. It's dry. So, but then as you go west, you can get into almost rainforest. It's
Mhm.
incredible. And we're only 45 minutes from Portland, hour and a half from the coast. So it's crazy how quickly the temperature and climate changes.
Yeah, yeah, and I really could tell the difference. It was a pretty hot day when I was there. It was probably in the 80s, and when we were down in the basement, there was at least a 15-20 degree difference in
Yeah,
temperature
yeah,
from the lower to the upper level. It was radical, and it was really cool to see. Saw the bull run and how you guys moved the barrels up there to the upper level.
no,
It was
Tom.
really cool tour. Really recommend it, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
the barrel roller is a bit ghetto. We are going to improve on that, but we
it made me really, appreciate the work that goes into these whiskeys. You guys are getting a fantastic deal, that is for sure.
I
The amount
know.
of work that goes into these.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's pretty funny. But what's amazing is, so I didn't even answer your question. This whiskey spent most of its time downstairs, where I think things move fairly slowly, on purpose because of the new oak and what it can do. And then for some of the time in the previously used, it would have been upstairs, but most of its life it was downstairs. You know, when we want things to move along a little faster, or start moving, like we have casks up here in the second floor that are made from a different cooperage that we bought. Our ISC is the company that's the big
Mhm.
independent stave company, is the
Yeah,
big cooperage in this country and in other countries too. But
yeah,
we Canton is another cooperage that we've been using, and these Canton cooperages, cooperage casks are a different grain, very tight grain. They're a wine cooperage as well. And things they weren't moving as fast, or they weren't changing like we wanted to the first year, and so we moved them from downstairs to this middle floor, and now things are happening, and it's so you can use these microclimates to make things move and or slow them down, you know.
yeah, for sure. Um, so I was told by somebody, someone once told me that this whiskey was proof down in the barrel. Is that true?
Yeah, we do. Yes, it is. So I learned a tremendous amount from a woman, Nancy Fraley. She is a woman in the industry who I was privileged to spend time at a workshop, a weekend deal in Texas with her and a bunch of other people, and extremely knowledgeable person. And one of the things that she taught me, I'd read about it before, but I never really made much of it. But diluting whiskey slowly is better, turns out. But it sounds crazy, but it makes a difference. So we basically have a bit of a target of where we want to end up with a whiskey. And then over the course of 6, maybe 9, possibly 12 months, we will dilute it in the cask is the best place. And there's 2 reasons for that in my mind. And there's like many things in this industry, there's differences of opinion, but slow dilution in and of itself makes it taste nicer. You talked about the edges. For me as well, it makes the edges less sharp on the whiskey.
Yeah, it's
But the other
definitely round. Yeah, compared to batch one, which is,
right,
I
that
feel like batch one is kind of like it's like a young
bang,
kid in clothes that are a little too big for him, but he's
is
still really
big.
fun and interesting. And batch two is just this amazing, well fit, young man who's got a fitted suit on, who's that everything just fits right, and he just knows what's going on.
That's so funny. Can you draw a picture of those things that you just described for me, maybe?
Oh, no problem. I'll get right on it.